The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke rose from broken machines and burning trees. The ground was covered with ash, and the bodies of Silari soldiers lay scattered across the field. The smell of plasma and melted armor filled the air. General Varkesh stood at the edge of the destroyed outpost, his red eyes locked on the ruined remains. His claws were shaking, not from anger, but from confusion. One human had done this. Only one. The Exilari Empire had fought many enemies. They had crushed rebellions, destroyed planets, and hunted entire species into extinction. Their warriors were trained from birth, their weapons among the most advanced in the galaxy. And yet one single human had torn through one of their strongest outposts like it was nothing. General Varkesh had seen the footage himself. The human didn't use heavy artillery or tanks. He didn't have a support team or an army behind him. He was alone. And he was fast. Deadly fast. The video showed the human moving through the forest like a ghost. His black armor made him hard to see. He didn't speak, didn't make a sound. He struck silently, taking out entire squads before they could react. Sometimes he used a knife, sometimes a simple rifle, and sometimes he used nothing at all, just his bare hands. It was terrifying. The Exilari soldiers were larger, stronger, and armed with energy weapons, but none of that had helped them. General Varkesh turned to his second-in-command, Captain Ralvik. You said it was a scouting mission, that they would send only probes. What is this? His voice was low, full of disbelief. Ralvik swallowed hard. We don't know, General. The human came from the forest. No ship landed, no signal detected. He was just there. The general looked back at the wreckage. The command tower had been crushed. Tanks flipped over. Drones destroyed in the air. It wasn't just a random attack, it was strategic. The human knew exactly what to hit first. Communication was taken out in the first 5 minutes. Power systems next. Then the officers. It was a perfect strike. This is no ordinary soldier, the general muttered. They recovered the human's weapon. It was small, scratched, and nearly out of power. Not standard military issue. His armor had signs of repair, handmade adjustments, like he had been alone for days. His helmet was cracked, and blood was visible inside. Yet even wounded, he had fought with unbelievable strength and accuracy. A medic approached the general. We found something strange, he said. He handed over a piece of the human's armor. On the inside, there was a mark, R7. What is this? The general asked. The medic hesitated. It could be a unit designation. Which unit? We're not sure, sir, but from the intel we stole from their border colonies, our codes usually belong to recon units. Scouts. Varkesh froze. Scouts. This wasn't a special forces soldier, not a war commander, not some elite assassin, just a scout. The thought was horrifying. If this was what a human scout could do alone, what would their army look like? Suddenly, a loud sound echoed from the forest. Everyone turned, weapons raised. A drone sent to scan the area came flying back, burning, spinning, and crashing into the dirt near the command post. A message was carved into the side of it. Next time, bring more. The silence that followed was heavier than before. General Varkesh felt something strange in his chest. Fear, real fear. He had never feared anything in his long military life. But now, standing on this broken battlefield, watching the ruins left by one wounded human, he understood something no Xilari general had admitted before. They had underestimated humanity, and the cost might be greater than they could ever imagine. The air was tense inside the Xilari Command Center on Delta VI. General Varkesh stood before a large screen, watching a map of the forest where the human had last been seen. Red dots marked the fallen patrols, elite Xilari warriors who had gone into the trees to capture the human. All of them were now silent. No signals, no return. How is this possible? The general growled. He's injured. He has no support. Yet he disappears like smoke. Captain Relvik didn't have an answer. He looked down at his tablet, reading the last words sent by the fallen units. Unit K3 reported movement. Then static. Unit B2 said they saw a shadow. Then silence. It's like he's hunting them. Hunting. The general repeated. We are the hunters. But in truth, they weren't anymore. Outside, the forest stretched for miles. Tall blue trees stood thick together, their branches twisting like ropes. Even trained auxiliary soldiers had difficulty moving through it. The human, however, seemed to use the forest as if he had lived there all his life. A new group of warriors stood ready, armored and armed with flamethrowers and heat-seeking drones. Sweep the forest, General Varkesh ordered. Burn everything if you have to. I want him found, alive or dead. The squad entered the forest with confidence. They were the best the auxiliary had. 10 soldiers, 2 aerial drones, and full thermal gear. But 20 minutes later, one drone crashed. 10 minutes after that, one soldier screamed over the radio. And then nothing. Panic rose in the command center. Get visual. Varkesh shouted. Track his heat signature. We can't, one officer replied. He's masking it somehow. Impossible. But it wasn't. This human had turned the forest into his battlefield. Every sound, every movement, every tree, he used them all to his advantage. One soldier was found hanging upside down, unconscious. Another's weapon was missing, his armor broken open, yet no sign of the human. The forest, it seemed, had swallowed him. In a dark part of the woods, the human, Callan Rice, rested quietly under a thick root. His breathing was slow, controlled. Blood dripped from his arm, but he didn't flinch. He listened to the sounds around him. Footsteps, drones, voices in an alien language. He smiled to himself. They were getting scared. He checked the small blade strapped to his leg. It was the only weapon he had left now. His rifle had run out of power. His ammo was gone. But it didn't matter. Fear was a weapon too. And right now, it was his sharpest one. Callan was trained to disappear, to survive, and to gather data. He was never meant to fight an entire army. But when they killed his team during a scouting mission, something changed. He wasn't just collecting information anymore. He was delivering a message. Back at the Silari command post, General Varkesh was losing patience. This is not a soldier. This is a ghost. Find him, he roared. Krell, the young analyst, spoke carefully. Sir, permission to speak. Speak. I think this human is not trying to escape. What do you mean? He's staying close. He could have left the forest by now. He's fast, smart, but he's still here. Varkesh frowned. Why? Krill looked at the screen. Because he wants us to come after him. The general stared at the map. It made sense now. The patrols, the missing units, the traps, the messages carved into their own broken drones. This wasn't random. The human wasn't running. He was pulling them in, like baiting a beast. The next morning, a Silari scout ship was found crashed near the outer ridge. Written on the hull with black ash were 4 words. Is this your best? The general said nothing. No one laughed. Not even Varkesh. Something was very wrong. The enemy they thought they were chasing was actually chasing them, and he was just getting started. Inside the underground command center, the atmosphere was tense. No one spoke loudly. Screens showed static where drones had gone dark. Satellite feeds flickered as if the forest itself was trying to block them. General Varkesh stood silently, eyes on a frozen image, a single human figure walking away from a burning Silari patrol. His armor was scratched, and his left arm hung limply, but he walked like he had already won. Analyst Krell sat in the corner, staring at a metal plate recovered from the field. It was part of the human's chest armor, burned and dented. There were no special marks, no medals, no command badges. Just one label on the inside, R7. Krell blinked. R7. He turned to his console and opened a stolen human database. The Xilari had captured it months ago from an outer human colony. Most of the data was coded, but unit designations were not. Krell searched through the list, cross-checking terms. When he saw the result, his hands went cold. R7 wasn't a soldier, not a commander, not even a Marine. It was a recon unit, a scout. His heart raced. He rushed to General Varkesh. "Sir, the human we're chasing. He's R7. Varkesh didn't look away from the screen. "Yes, you said. A recon unit." "So, sir," Krell said, stepping closer, "that's the lowest combat role in the human forces. They aren't trained for war. Their mission is to observe, report, and disappear. They're not meant to engage. They're not even issued heavy weapons." Varkesh finally turned to him, his expression hard. "Then explain how this scout destroyed one of my best outposts, killed 2 elite squads, and vanished into the forest with half my army chasing him." Krell's voice lowered. "That's the point, sir. If a scout can do this, what can their real soldiers do?" The room went silent. No one wanted to answer that question. Captain Ralvik stepped forward. "Perhaps this one is different. A rogue. Maybe. A mutant." Krell shook his head. "No, sir. He used standard recon tactics. Hit fast. Disappear. Use the environment. I watched his movements frame by frame. He was trained, not wild. Every action had purpose." General Varkesh's jaw clenched. "So we've been playing into his hands the whole time." "Yes," Krell said quietly. "He's controlling the battlefield. And we're just reacting." Just then, an alert flashed on the main screen. A drone near the forest border picked up movement. Brief, fast. A few seconds of video played. The human scout was seen crouching beside a tree, setting something on the ground. Then he vanished again. The camera zoomed in. It was a motion trap, one of their own. He had stolen and reused Xilari tech. Varkesh growled. "Enough games. Bring in the Skyburner." The Skyburner was one of the Empire's most feared war machines, a hovering strike ship armed with plasma cannons and thermal scanners. It could clear a city block in seconds. It was not designed for scouts. It was designed for war. Within an hour, the Skyburner flew over the forest, scanning for heat signatures and movement. Its massive cannons lit the skies with fire. The forest shook from the impact. Flames spread. Trees fell. Everything alive ran in fear. And still, no human. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, the Skyburner's signal vanished. Everyone stared at the screen. "What happened?" Ralvik shouted. "Where is the feed?" The technician was pale. "We don't know, sir. It just went offline." A deep silence followed. A few minutes later, a damaged Xilari recon drone crawled into the command center's landing bay. Its sensors had been fried, but a small data core was still active. They played the last video it had recorded. Smoke filled the air. The Skyburner hovered, scanning below. Then from the trees, something launched. A single explosive device, small, handmade, struck the left thruster. The Skyburner dipped. Then a shadow leaped from the canopy. The human. He climbed the ship midair. The camera caught the moment he ripped open a hatch and threw in another charge. The ship exploded in the sky, falling like a dying star. The last frame showed the human rolling through the smoke and vanishing again. General Varkesh stood frozen. His strongest weapon had just been brought down by a man with a knife and a homemade bomb. Krell's voice broke the silence. "He's not trying to win, sir. He's just teaching us something." Varkesh looked at him. "What?" Krell stared at the smoke on the screen. "That he's not the real threat." The smoke from the fallen Skyburner still lingered in the air. Inside the Xilari command center, no one spoke. The silence was heavier than ever before. General Varkesh stared at the last video frame of the human, his black armor covered in dust and blood, walking calmly into the trees after destroying one of the Empire's most powerful ships. Varkesh turned slowly. This human, he's sending a message. Krell nodded. Yes, sir, but I don't think we've heard the full message yet. Moments later, a sharp alarm echoed across the control room. A landing alert. A small probe had just touched down on the outer pad, one of Earth's models, the kind the humans used for peaceful communication. Silari soldiers surrounded it quickly, weapons ready. It didn't move. It didn't explode. It simply blinked a soft blue light, then opened. Inside was a small sphere. When placed on the center table, it projected a glowing hologram. The human appeared, the same one who had destroyed the outpost. His armor was torn. His face was bruised, one eye slightly swollen. But he stood tall. He looked directly into the camera. My name is Callan Reyes, Recon Scout, Earth Outpost 7. His voice was calm, tired, but strong. This wasn't supposed to happen. I came to observe, not to fight. But your soldiers attacked my team. You left us no choice. He paused for a second, then continued. I want you to understand something. I was not sent here to start a war. I was not sent to conquer. I was sent to look. His eyes sharpened. But now, Earth has seen your response. We know how your empire treats outsiders. We've seen your fear and your pride. The general clenched his fists, but he kept watching. Reyes leaned forward slightly. This was a recon mission. I am a scout. Nothing more. Another pause. Then he gave a small, cold smile. Next time, we won't send a scout. The hologram ended. The room stayed silent for a full minute. Ralvik was the first to speak. It's a threat. Krell shook his head. It's worse than a threat. It's a promise. General Varkesh turned to the war map. He remembered the skyburner exploding, the trap messages, the vanishing squads. A single human had shaken the entire Delta VI system. Not with an army, not with a fleet, just by being there. A recon scout. Ralvik tried to stay calm. Perhaps the humans are bluffing. One strong fighter doesn't mean their whole military is this capable. Krell didn't agree. But what if he's average by human standards? What if he's not special at all? That thought sent a chill through the room. Contact the council, Varkesh ordered. They need to see this. Krell stepped forward. Sir, there's something else. Varkesh raised an eyebrow. We intercepted a human data pulse from a distant satellite. A signal was sent shortly after Reyes disappeared into the forest. It included tactical scans and video footage. Everything he saw here. Varkesh narrowed his eyes. You mean he wasn't just fighting? No, sir, Krell said. He was still completing his mission. He was recording, gathering intel, even while injured. So Earth has full knowledge of our base, our response, even the skyburner. Yes, General. And they didn't stop him. They'd wanted him to report back. The general turned away, his mind racing. The Empire had thought humanity was just another small, noisy species. Loud, ambitious, easy to crush. But now he understood. Humans were different. They didn't just fight to win. They fought to warn. And they sent scouts, not to gather weakness, but to show strength. Krell looked at the blinking sphere on the table. He's still alive out there. Good, Varkesh said coldly. Because the longer he lives, the more we'll learn about him, and the more mistakes he'll make. But even as he said those words, a deep voice inside him whispered the truth. The scout wasn't making mistakes. He was teaching lessons, and the Empire had just failed its first one. 3 weeks had passed since the message from the human scout, but the fear still lingered across the auxiliary systems. Outpost Theta 9 remained in ruins, and no patrol dared enter the forests of Delta VI again. Across the stars, Other auxiliary commanders were asking questions, nervous questions. Had the Empire lost control? Was the human telling the truth? Was he really just a scout? General Varkesh tried to keep order. He ordered silence on the incident. No broadcasts, no open files. No one was to speak of the Skyburner's destruction. He hoped fear would fade with time. But then the reports began. First came the silence. One by one, outer systems stopped responding. Communications from mining colonies were cut. Border patrols sent distress signals. And then nothing. The council thought it was equipment failure. Varkesh knew better. He called an emergency meeting with his top officers. The room was dark, the lights dimmed to highlight a large galactic map. "This is the outer line," he said, pointing to the edge of Silari space. "Stations here, here, and here, gone dark. No communication, no trade ships, no rescue response." Krell stepped forward, placing a small chip into the center console. The room lit up with the last video recovered from a lost scout vessel. It showed something massive. A fleet. Dozens of ships, dark, sleek, and quiet, just hovering beyond the nebula wall. Human ships. They weren't attacking. They weren't moving, just waiting. Krell zoomed in. Each ship had the Earth Federation symbol, and all of them were facing the auxiliary border. The officers stared at the screen. "They're watching us," one muttered. "No," Krell said softly. "They're waiting." Varkesh narrowed his eyes. For what? That was the question. The human fleet made no demands, no threats, no broadcasts. They simply appeared and sat there like giants in the dark, just beyond reach. Ralvik, standing beside the general, clenched his jaw. "We should strike first, before they do." "No," Varkesh said. "That's what they want. If we fire, they can claim we started the war." Another officer asked, "What if this is already war?" "No battles," Krell replied. "No invasions. This isn't war. It's psychological." The general nodded slowly. "They are testing us, waiting to see how we react. Just like that scout." The officers looked uneasy. "They could have attacked by now," Ralvik said. "They haven't. Why?" Krell glanced at the others. "Because they're still giving us a chance." The human message was clear. "Next time, we won't send a scout. This is the next time. They want us to surrender." One commander scoffed. "Without a single shot." "No," Varkesh said. "They want us to think, to fear, to choose." For days, the human fleet didn't move. Silari stations sent probes, but the humans ignored them. One small Silari cruiser got too close. It vanished. No explosion, no message, just silence. And still, the fleet waited. Across Silari space, panic grew. Civilian ships refused to fly. Trade halted. People started to leave outer colonies. Even high-ranking officers asked to be transferred away from the border. Fear was spreading faster than fire. General Varkesh walked alone into his private chamber. He stared out the window, watching distant stars flicker. Somewhere out there, that human scout was alive, resting, healing, waiting. His face haunted the general more than any enemy in his long career. One man had walked into an empire and left behind a warning. Now a fleet stood at the edge of space, and the message was clear. We are here. We are watching. And we are ready. Varkesh had seen many wars, but never like this. This one hadn't even started. And already, the Exilari were losing. Inside the grand hall of the Exilari High Council, the atmosphere was full of fear and confusion. The strongest leaders of the empire sat around a massive circular table. Generals, warlords, scientists, and governors all stared at the same large screen. It showed the human fleet still floating silently at the edge of Silari space. No one had attacked. No shots were fired. And yet, Entire colonies had already surrendered out of fear. Supreme Chancellor Varnex, an old and proud leader, slammed his hand on the table. This is madness. Why are we sitting here while humans surround our borders like wolves? General Varkesh stood calmly. Because if we attack, we lose control. They want us to react without thinking. That's how they win. Another counselor shouted, then we must act. Strike first. Show them that the Empire is not afraid. But we are afraid, whispered Governor Telma. Her voice was shaky. Our people are leaving the border worlds. Our own commanders are refusing patrol duty. They're scared. They are cowards. Someone hissed. No, Telma said, standing. They saw what one human scout did, and now they see hundreds of their warships waiting in the shadows. Maybe fear is the only smart thing we've done. The room erupted into shouting. Half the council demanded war. The other half asked for peace. Some screamed for surrender. Others called it betrayal. For the first time in centuries, the Xilari Council was breaking apart, not from outside attacks, but from within. Krell stood quietly in the corner, listening to the arguments. He stepped forward. Council members, he said, raising his voice, I studied their behavior. The humans are not trying to conquer us. Not yet. They are letting fear do the work. They haven't fired a single shot, and still, we are losing control. Chancellor Varnex glared at him. Are you saying we should surrender? To a species that sent one man to destroy our outpost? Krell didn't flinch. I'm saying that was never about one man. That scout was a message, and now the fleet is the second message. If we keep pushing, the next message will be something much worse. Varkesh nodded. We must consider the option of diplomacy. Diplomacy. Varnex laughed bitterly. We are warriors. We do not beg for peace. Then you will watch the Empire fall, Varkesh said coldly, because they are not begging either. They're just waiting, watching, and calculating. Suddenly, a sharp alarm rang through the chamber. A priority transmission flashed across the room. Everyone turned. It was a hacked Xilari broadcast, taken over by human code. A new hologram appeared. It was not the scout. This time, it was a woman, a high-ranking human commander, dressed in sleek black armor with the Earth Federation's symbol behind her. Her tone was calm, confident. You've met our scout, she said. He was alone, wounded, and unarmed in the end. Yet he walked through your strongest base. You saw his work. Now, you've seen our fleet. She paused, letting her words settle. We haven't attacked because we believe in warning first. You were warned. Now you must decide. Stand down, or stand against us. Her face hardened. There will be no third warning. The transmission ended. Silence. For once, even the loudest council members had nothing to say. General Varkesh looked around the room. Do you still believe this is about one man? Varnex sat down slowly, staring at the dark screen. He didn't answer. Outside, in space, the human fleet continued to wait. Not moving, not blinking, like a shadow stretching across the stars. And deep within the Empire's capital, the cracks were spreading. Governors started ignoring the central command. Small factions whispered about surrender. The military high ranks were no longer united. The Xilari Empire, which had ruled for generations, was starting to fall apart, without a single shot being fired. All because of one scout and the silent army behind him. The message was now clear to all. This was not war. This was a warning. And the clock was ticking. You said. The stars above the Xilari homeworld were no longer peaceful. Dozens of human ships now hovered in high orbit, silent and still, watching. The human fleet had not moved in days. They didn't need to. Their presence alone had done what no weapon ever could. Inside the High Council chamber, the mood was cold and quiet. No more shouting. No more arguing. The strongest voices had gone silent, and the proudest leaders had stopped pretending. Chancellor Varnex sat at the edge of the round table, his hands trembling. He stared at the latest report. 5 more colonies had cut ties with the capital. A major fleet commander had defected, taking 3 warships with him. Civil unrest had begun on 2 moons. The once powerful empire was falling apart. From fear, General Varkesh stood near the window, watching the sky. He didn't need reports. He could feel it in his bones. The war was over, and it had never even started. A message had arrived only minutes ago, sent from the flagship of the human fleet. Simple, direct. You have until sunrise. Varkesh turned toward the council. We are out of time. Councillor Telma nodded. Then we surrender. The word tasted bitter. Even saying it felt like failure. But no one disagreed. Not even Chancellor Varnex. Krell, now standing near the main console, spoke gently. This is not surrender. It's survival. If we continue to fight shadows, there won't be anything left to protect. Varnex slowly rose. His voice was tired. Prepare the signal. Tell the humans, we accept their terms. No one cheered. No one smiled. But somewhere deep inside, the fear began to fade, just a little. The message was sent. Across the Xilari worlds, the news spread fast. The war that never began was officially over. Human ships remained in orbit for a short time longer. And then, just like that, they pulled back. No invasion, no demands, just silence. They had come, showed their power, and left. A week later, Callan Rice, the scout who had started it all, was found. A small Xilari search team discovered him unconscious in a cave, hidden deep in the Delta VI forest. His armor was broken, his body weak, but he was still alive. When they carried him out, no one touched their weapons. No one even spoke. They just stared at the man who had made an empire bend. When he woke in a human medical bay days later, the first thing he asked was, did they listen? A young officer smiled and nodded. They did. Rice closed his eyes. His mission was complete. Back in Xilari space, changes began. The Empire no longer claimed new planets. Trade routes were opened. Communication channels were restored. The Xilari Council was reformed, this time with new rules and a new understanding. They were no longer the top power in the galaxy. Now, they were neighbors. And humanity. Humanity became a name spoken with caution. Not because of brutality, not because of numbers, but because of precision, patience, and terrifying control. No one ever forgot the story of the lone human scout who walked into enemy space and walked out alive, leaving only silence and fear behind. He didn't destroy an empire with bombs. He didn't need an army. He used something far more powerful. A message. And now, the galaxy understood that message clearly. If one human can do this, imagine what happens when they come together. The Xilari would never forget, and neither would anyone else.